Hello, everybody. Welcome to another beautiful podcast. My name is Nana Yaa Yeboaa, and I'm delighted today that I'm being joined by Vladimir Jean-Gilles.
Yeah, the last
Well,
name is French.
Vladimir Jean-Gilles.
Yes.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous.
Très bien, merci. So, Vladimir is a producer, writer, journalist, film critic, and a really thoughtful voice in our Canadian media. I have looked up what you've been doing, and it is an incredible landscape of work and storytelling and building. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Vladimir, welcome. Good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
Yes. One thing about me personally and this podcast is telling Black Canadian narratives. What is your story? What is my story? What is our story? How do we inspire? How do we motivate? How do we mentor vicariously or whatnot other people? So when you're here, why would anybody tuning in, getting to know you for the very first time, tune in and listen to Vladimir Jean?
So I that's a very wonderful question. First of all, thank you again for having me on the show. I think it's an amazing opportunity that every time we get to share our stories, you never know in what ways that it inspires somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they see themselves through you, whether they want to become like you, or whether they see similarities and they're like, I want to bet on myself too. My stories is very much that is the story of somebody who lost the ability to conceptualize that something is impossible. I lost the ability to conceptualize that something is not achievable. And because of that, it's put me on a path where opportunities came galore. And it was sort of like I had the benefit of being able to be in a to operate from a position where I get to be selective about the opportunities that come my way, about the things that I want to do. So that's something that I don't take for granted. It just started with believing in myself. I saw some people who had the ability to speak, the ability to put words together. I saw them operating in different facets on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
on different kind of platforms, and I realized that well, if this one thing that I can do is talk forever. So if I can make money doing that, you know what I mean. And I can put words together real nice. So let me see what that's gonna get me, and really like without really like a plan, without really saying like, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is where I'm gonna like set the bar, whatever. um I just went and did it, to be honest with you. I just went and did it. And the vision revealed itself to me as I went
Mm-hmm.
along. You know, sometimes I feel like when we have a plan, when we have a desire to do something, we tend to operate off a when I'm ready, when I figure it out, I'm gonna do it. When I you know, I don't have it figured out. That's a big part of my story, not knowing what I'm doing. And being a little naive enough to be like, if I want to do this one thing, I can actually go and do this one thing. You know what I mean? Because I haven't sat on the different realities that people can
Mm-hmm.
project at you of like these are the different ways this could fail. These are the barriers that are in the way. I don't really, if there's an obstacle, I'll go around it. I'll go over it. I'll go through it. I'll dig underneath it. Whatever I have to do. You know what I mean? But I'll figure it out. And that's sort of like the principle from which I've operated throughout my career, and that's how I got to where I am today.
Well, that is beautiful. That is so in depth, and I will say you have a lot of courage.
Thank you. It
You have
does.
a lot of courage and brevity to go through that, because some people like myself are planners and
Mhm.
sometimes get stuck in the box of planning.
In the planning process, yeah.
In the planning process, yes. But it seems that in conversation, you are think, execute, and figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's the best. Well, to a certain degree, the deeper you get into things, this is when planning comes along, right?
Mm-hmm.
Planning how, okay, I got this opportunity. You got to plan my step, like from step one to from step A to step B to step C, how I'm gonna get through something. I think there's a balance that, we're not. Sometimes you hear these things that people are saying. Are you saying like? I should just throw away the plan. No, I am not saying that. What I'm saying is that you can't you can't the plan cannot be your God. You know what I mean? It's because there's a saying that say you make plans and God laugh. You know what I mean? And I'm a
Yes.
type of person, I don't take myself too seriously. So because of that, it's put me in position where, oh, I had this plan, but then this thing came up. It's like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? Like, sit down and plan my way through it. It's already happening, so I'm just gonna go with that and see where it goes. And having the ability to do that is essential to achieve a certain level of achievement, I guess, so for lack of a better term, the
Mm-hmm.
level of achievement that people want to feel. You know what I mean? It requires you to think very quickly on your feet. And
Mm-hmm.
if someone today is like, hey, I need this thing done tomorrow, and you've never done this thing before, you've never operated, you're not a professional, you don't even know what a producer does or what this person does or whatever, then at that moment, like, you're gonna have to figure it out. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to do a crash course on YouTube, overnight, so you can have a full idea of what's happening. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Your conversation reminds me of Bosoma St. John and how she came to be who she is, and the necessary steps and the audacity to be. And
Yeah,
yes,
you have to
yes,
dare. You have to
yes.
dare. There's almost a like how dare you type of energy that you have to have, with
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Is like, how dare I walk into this place and say to people, I'm Vladimir Jean-Gilles, you're gonna hear about me. How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
But that's literally the only way to achieve things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find that, and not to make it hopefully it doesn't come off as a more of a negative thing, but I find that there's a lot of resistance sometimes to people doing things in a unique way that hasn't been done before, especially if it's not
Mm-hmm.
conventional. And people are like, well, that's not how my parents told me that this is the plan. That's not how the system, that's not what I learned in school. And you
Mm-hmm.
just show up and you just do it completely your way. Um, there's resistance to that. You know what I mean? To like to go against the programming, and it's like let's all, it's like an unspoken rule that we're all gonna operate this way, we're all gonna do
Mm-hmm.
things that way, and
Mm-hmm.
we're all going in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decide, I'm not gonna go in that direction. I'm gonna go things this way instead, and I'm not, and I'm walking against the grain. That's like, how dare you? You know what I mean? How dare you? It takes audacity to do that. How dare
Yes.
you just tell us that you're in a room with 100 people and you stand up and say 99 of you are wrong? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Like it's almost like it's almost crazy, But that's how much faith you gotta have. That's how much
That
faith you gotta have.
is it only faith or there's an intuitive factor to it?
I think they're intertwined. I
Mm.
think they're intertwined. I think faith is literally, when and sometimes you're like, I don't know how to explain that I know,
Mm-hmm.
but right now I just need to trust this. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And this is the factor of faith, right? It's like in the Bible, they say a mustard seed of faith
Mm-hmm.
is right, is just enough, for God to make wonders with you. Depending on what you believe in and all that kind of stuff. Some people, it's like, intuition is like, it's that gut feeling. It's like, I don't know
Yes.
why I'm feeling like this is what's happening, but you know what? Whatever, I'm doing it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And if I was wrong, I'll figure that out later too. You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um comes with being a writer too, right? Like one of my dreams is to write novels one day that can leave behind in this world as a legacy of the different things that I've experienced emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, spiritually. And one day I was having a conversation. Have you ever heard of the book Life of Pi?
The Life of Pi. Yeah.
Yeah, and they made a
It
movie
turned
about
it
it.
into the
Yeah.
movie. Yes, I
So
did.
when I was traveling in Saskatchewan, I had the chance to have a conversation with Jan Martel, who's the author of that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him for some advice about, like, my own writing, my own storytelling, all that kind of stuff. And he told me, in order to write accurately about the world, you need to have the courage to turn your back on it.
Mm.
And every day that I experience the meaning of that more and more and more and more
Mm.
profoundly, as I make the steps to turn my back on what I've been told is this is the mechanics of the world. Obey. And I'm just like, no. As a matter of fact, that's not even how I'm experiencing the world. That's not even how I don't the limits that people impose on themselves. I don't feel them over myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like those limits are on my being, and I don't feel that. So why would I operate for it? No, I'm going to operate in a reality where possibilities are like this and not like
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because that's my truth. You know, and that's part of that advice, to turn your back on it.
Wow. And other writers who say, turn deeper into yourself, dig deeper into yourself,
Find your own
Eh,
truth.
eh,
Yeah,
find your own truth and shut off the outside world. That is beautiful. Thank you.
absolutely.
So, film critic, journalist, travel culture commentator, man, everything in between and sideways and
Yeah,
underneath. It's like in some. So when people ask you what do you do, what do you really tell them?
I don't know what to tell them. That's an amazing question. I love this question. This is probably the best question I've ever been asked on an interview. Wow. Wow. That's like, I've done a few of these, and this is the first question that I've ever been asked that I'm like, wow, this is like, that is the question. When people ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, what do I even putting my
What
bio in this thing, I was like,
what
what do I
don't I
put?
do?
Yeah. Even putting my bio on this thing, I was like, I don't even know what to put on. You know what I mean? Like, what do I put? What do I leave out? You know?
Hmm.
For me, I just say, I'm a media personality and entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And I occupy multiple different roles within the media
Hmm.
industry. You know what I mean? Um, and I kind of keep it at that. I'm multimedia person. Multimedia
Hmm.
of I'm a multimedia professional. I think that's like, at this point, it's just like, I'm everything I have to do somehow has to do with media.
Yeah.
And even finding my way into media is sort of like it's not a plan. It was just a thing. I didn't know that was, yeah, I'm just gonna go do media. And it's like, wow, like that
Like,
blows. Yeah.
so when you say that, you just decided to go to the School of Journalism to go do media studies.
Not
Oh,
quite.
what? Okay.
So
Break it down.
I I actually decided to drop out of school to go pursue media entrepreneurship. So it's kind of it happened the other way. It happened the other way around, which is kind of funny because now the schools that I dropped out from, they kind of asked me to come back and give speeches and
I
speaking
love it.
engagement to communication students, so that they can one day have the career that I have, which tells me, like, again, you have to turn your back on the system. You have to find your own way. I was like, wow, man, they now they're paying me to show up to their school. That's interesting.
Eh, y- y- You know what? When you're talking about writers, I think Maya Angelou um, was I think he had so many PhDs or awards of excellence, literature, whatnot, and she never went to college,
Hmm.
but she taught poetry
Because she
in
thought,
university.
that tells you everything that you gotta know. Because really, it's like, I feel like anybody can, if you tell me, like, okay, I've got to give you $10,000 to learn how to operate this headphone case real quick,
Hmm.
you know and you telling me that my life, my future depends on it. I can learn how to do that, but that will not have anything to do with discovering my potential as a person.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? The things that make me me, my ability to find meanings in things and express them for those who can express themselves, which is an innate talent, which
Hmm.
is what I'm put on earth to do ultimately, and in whatever hat that I wear. So that is something that requires, like, how many people, and other people can learn how to do that, how to build a chair, how to fix a car, how to fix the human body. But how many people have the courage to go out in the world and learn themselves?
Mm, 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 mm. Not many of us that I can say for sure.
That's ultimately what makes people feel like, even though they're following the program from start to finish, and some people it works out for them, and I love it for them. Whenever I meet people who did the traditional path and did this and did that, they got married at 25, they bought a house at 27, they had kids at 28, and now they're and they're happy. I'm genuinely happy for them, because I'm so the idea that this model has worked for somebody makes me feel like
Hmm.
there's a little bit of justice in the world. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because if the only way to in the system to succeed in the system was to escape it, that wouldn't be fair. You know what I mean?
How does
But
fear play a role in all this or not?
fear, absolutely. Whatever I fear to do is the right thing to do. That's how I figure, especially when you're somebody like me at this point who has so many options of what you can do next. It's like, okay, well, that's easy, that's comfortable. That doesn't require me to try too hard. You see what I mean? Like it's an option, but is it the right option? Will that make me a better person afterwards? Will I grow? Because it's like okay, I have to pick the thing that is the least that makes me the least comfortable, that gets me out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that requires me to ask myself the question, what am I afraid of?
mm, mm, mm,
And
mm.
whatever I'm afraid of means that this is what I need to prepare myself for, because that's what I'm facing next.
Wow. Thank you.
For
You know,
sure.
I went off script, eh?
Well, it's fine. I mean, I
No,
work better
no,
off
no.
script, so it's all good.
No, it is valuable conversation, that's for sure.
Hmm.
And viewers watching it, if you are young, if you are mid-profession, whatnot, you can take, a thing or two from this conversation, which is the most important aspect, listening to stories and see how these stories inspire and, give us the opportunity to make transformational changes in our lives. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And every time I'm talking to somebody who is either a journalist or a producer or whatnot, it's reminiscent of my career choices, which did not go according to plan.
Tell
But
us about it. I'd love to hear it.
so earlier in my very early life, my going to school back home, my intention was to do English literature and French, and hopefully go into journalism or least of all work with United Nations in the capacity of a translator or whatnot. But when I got into the school and I discovered that the courses I wanted were not being offered, I switched into sciences.
Mm,
But here is it that as science students, you have a teacher teaching physics, and I'm sitting and I'm reading a novel. I'm not interested in the distance
that's what
between the
happens.
earth and in the yes.
That's what happened.
And I could remember I he was teaching about the distance, a calculation between the distance between the earth and the moon. And I looked up the board and I said, what am I going to the moon for?
That's funny.
But years later, when I came into this country, it is still I didn't see representation of blacks on television.
Yeah.
So it made me switch up and went to do, science background again, science. It's not for a love of it. It was just because I made that decision earlier in life, I stayed with that path until presently. But I have always boarded. I do write, I do the spoken word, and doing this podcast. So it's always been there, and I do storytelling. All those aspects are still with me, including my nursing profession, which I did, which has segued into leadership. So that's why I asked you that question. When somebody asks you, what do you do? What would you say? Because I can't even answer it for myself.
Honestly, like it depends on how I feel that day. Sometimes I tell them I'm an artist, because I am. You
Hmm.
know, I when I produce, when I write, and I'm also an actor. So
Mm-hmm.
those are things that requires the ability to tap into the energy that is the artistry. But I'm some people, I'm a media professional, I'm a creative professional,
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on the context of the conversation, because I'm able to wear so many hats and camouflage
Mm-hmm.
them in different rooms. It's like
Mm-hmm.
basic code switching, you know what I mean?
Yes.
um
Yes.
so having that is definitely a plus, to be honest, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not always like being a creative director is not always relevant to being a travel journalist, and being a travel
Mm-hmm.
journalist is not always being relevant to being an actor, and being an actor is not always relevant to being a PR manager, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
like so those things are completely different. um so that's kind of how I look at it. And when I heard your story, it's interesting because a lot of us have this thing that, how though the intensity of the experience differ from people to people, but it's like, that sudden, like, um not a drive, but like that resistance to the creativity inside of you,
Mm-hmm.
the passion for reading, for storytelling, for discovering stories, all that kind of stuff. You're trying to shut it down a little bit to do something that is more constructive and whatnot, and then that version of you just comes back to the surface, and you can't really drown that, and you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
either. It's not something that you would want to do, actually, because that's your genuine self asking you for to extend love towards it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's pieces
Mm-hmm.
of yourself that wants to feel your love too, And that's usually what makes it come back, and you don't feel good until you honor that. And it's really important
Mm-hmm.
to honor that.
Yes. Yes. It's more for me. It's a more of an asset.
Ah, nice. I like that.
It is an asset because I don't need anybody to tell me how to be in front of the people. As a spoken word artist, you have to be able to stand in front of people to deliver. As a moderator of programs, you have to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
As a talk show host, you have to be
Be
able
able
to
to do.
deliver.
Yeah.
My thing is, if you make the sorry mistake and give me a mic, just be ready until I do a mic drop.
I like that.
Well, let's get into some film. What are some of your work or works that are out as yet?
So as of now, I have one producer credit on a TV show that we produced in 2024 called A Day in a Life. It took place in Ottawa, and it follows the lives of different professional, different aspects of their lives, who are
Mm-hmm.
encouraged to swap professions for a day to walk into each other's lives. And That was the first thing I've worked on. In terms of everything else in films, I've mostly operated as a film critic
Mm-hmm.
for the past 10 years. So I've been studying cinema, studying the work of actors, studying the work of the greats, from the Edison Lab, the Lumiere brothers,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to, like, Ryan Coogler and all them.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole story of cinema is something that I've always found extremely fascinating, and that and right now I'm a voter of the Critics' Choice Awards.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to vote for the next for the next winners, and all these things, right? And being surrounded and developing these friendships
Mm-hmm.
with people from these award shows, what it does in a lot of ways, it's sort of like encouraged me to do this thing. And I think you're going to resonate with that. Is there's this thing in creativity, if you ever read The Artist Way, it's called shadow creators. And the shadow creators are the people who are tempted to create, but they play it safe. So they tiptoe around the creativity that they're passionate about, and they have creative jobs. You know what I mean? It's like a music journalist who wanted to be a
Yes.
musician type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And from that angle, I've discovered that I've been a shadow creator for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And Just like Jean-Luc Godard, who's a big contributor to what we call in film the new French wave cinema
Mm-hmm.
in the 1960s or so, I think. Don't quote me on that part. But either way, they start off as film critics. Same with the director of Old Boy. They start off as film critics, and eventually, eventually they transition into cinema. And
Mm.
right now I'm currently working on my transition into cinema.
I will be patiently, impatiently waiting for you.
Thank you.
Now, whilst we're on the subject on film, I know you're a regular critic on CBC.
Yes, I am.
Yes. So, how do you break, a movie for someone who might never see it or without over explaining it? I have not watched it. I have no idea. You're explaining it to me. Teach me.
So my number one job as a critic is not
Mm,
the number one thing is not to convince you to watch a movie.
mm-hmm,
Is to help you figure out why you feel the way you do about a film or not.
mm,
Because I still on my opinion, yeah, that the most beautiful thing about cinema is how subjective it is. If you hate horror movie, like I do, I watch them professionally for a living. But if I wasn't getting paid to do that, I wouldn't watch a horror movie ever. If you hate horror movie and I'm telling you about like my experience with this horror film and it reinforces to you why you would never ever see it, I did
mm-hmm,
my job. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if I can spark a little bit of curiosity within you for a type of film that you never thought you would ever watch, it's not your cup of tea, it's not in a language that you speak, it's not from an era that you even understand, and I can spark a curiosity for it. That I mean that I've done something that movies are meant to do, regardless of what kind of movie you're watching, which is connected to the bit of our humanity that makes us relate to them. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? And that spark of curiosity, I might be introducing you to something that you didn't know that you needed to discover. And maybe just
Yeah.
like that you discovered that Asian cinema is actually you say you don't go to the movies because all movies are the same, but then then you watch Asian cinema and you're like, wow, all these movies are different. And it's like, here you go, you found your niche. You know what I mean? So
How was the very first, the very first write up of a film critic? What was number one? What prompted you to do that? What was the process, and how did you feel afterwards?
So my so are you asking me what my first film review was? Like what was that
Yes.
like? It was a very cringy experience, and I'm never sharing it with the internet ever. It's somewhere on YouTube. People can probably find it if they dig hard enough. But I made sure it's buried underneath some of Paula's stuff and other content that if you Google my name, it will never come up. It was honestly at the time I didn't even know because I was so young, and the thing about being a relatable film critic is people have to feel like you have an opinion and that you're really your own person. Like having your own voice is
Mm-hmm.
essential. And at the time I hadn't developed that. I didn't even know, to be honest, I didn't even know English yet. You know what I mean? I learned English for this job when I was like 20 or something. So when I was 20, 21, I learned English so I can do this job. And at the time, I was like, I couldn't even put my words together. So I would switch between English, French, and Creole. And it was just so embarrassing. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to put together. But anyway, I just went and did it. And it worked out, I guess. You know what I mean? But
It did.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, I'll never tell you how to find it. I'll never show it to you. If you find it, good for you, but good luck. It's tough to find that one.
So you speak about learning to speak English at 20s, you speaking Creole. Normally, I would have begun this conversation with your beginning story, going by your name and everything. But
Vladimir Jean-Gilles.
yes, Vladimir Jean-Gilles sounds really Frenchy, Frenchy.
Hmm.
So for those people who are interested to know, because I said Vladimir Jean-Gilles, but it's not. I anglicized it. Yes,
Mm,
yes, but it is French. So
yeah.
if people are curious, it's like, what do you tell them?
So you know what's funny? So my people are interested in different aspects of my name and my identity because it's like an amalgam of an
Mm-hmm.
amalgamation of a lot of things. Um, my my accent is my accent is French Haitian. My first name is Russian. My last name is French. And I am a black man with dreadlocks. So people get extremely confused when I was like, "Yo, what's your name?" And I'm Vladimir. Vladimir, like, yeah, Vladimir Jean-Gilles. And it sparks so growing up to me, it's just my name. I don't really
Yes.
whatever. Um, and I don't think too much about it. But the more I grow deeper into the professional world, or
Mm-hmm.
the adult world, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
I find out that, if I had $1 every time every time I got in an Uber and someone asked me, "Huh, you're not the guy from Russia, you're not the president of Russia, are you?" I would never need $1 ever. I could retire comfortably, send my parents around trips around the world, make sure they're good, you know what I mean, all that stuff. So that's it. So I'm Haitian. Born and raised born in Montreal, raised in the outskirts of Montreal. Came to Ottawa when I was 14. Raised by two Haitian parents, who are both hair care professionals. I have that's the entirety of my background. The Russian name, the Russian first name comes from the proximity that Haiti has with Cuba and all these other countries who
Mm-hmm.
also have a lot of ties with communism and all that kind of stuff, right? With their ties with Russia. So with that, from that on, if you go to Dominican Republic, Sergei
Mm-hmm.
Vladimir, like it's coming there, translate into Haiti, into Vladimir, and they kind of like carry that with them as well, so it's actually
It's
more common to see a Haitian named Vladimir than people realize.
I learned something today. Yeah,
Hmm.
because sometimes, more often than not, I'm very much aware of interconnected stories. But many
Nice.
times we are not really aware of the interconnectedness of our narratives. Because as he's speaking about Haitian and everything, where it takes me back is way, way back to the transatlantic slave trade, to the
Hmm.
slave coast, which is West Africa, to the
Yeah.
Dahomey Kingdom. Yes, where
Hmm.
a lot of our people from Togo, from parts of Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria were forcibly removed and brought to, how do you call it?
Well, the Caribbean, like
To the
a lot of
Caribbean.
that's where
Yes,
that's where most Caribbean are from. Yeah.
yes, yes. And we could definitely identify that a lot of Haitians may probably be from Togo and
And
Benin and
Benin.
Togo. Yeah,
Hmm.
Benin
That's
and
a
Togo.
that's a historical
Yeah,
fact.
yes. So, um, it's the interconnected stories that we don't often pay attention. It may be the past, but it affects us now, and it will still affect generations to come. So, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because if any person at some point in time tend to watch this conversation and are coming from those places or in the diaspora, know that they are not alone. They stand on the shoulders of people such as yourself, who have paved the way, who have identified and are doing it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you. Um, I talk a lot about how it's the first courage of that came from our parents, right? Our parents, for my case, they moved from Haiti. They came here, had us
Mhm,
here, give us they were the first people to break that, to bring that, the first pioneer to bring that, yeah, in our lives, and now we have access to these opportunities that they didn't get to have. You know what I mean? Because
mhm,
they were either raising us or figuring out life as immigrants in a country that
mhm,
wasn't even made for them. You know what I mean? So all of that are factors that I'm always trying to consider in terms of like how I move within the world, and um, what my and understanding where I fit in it. You know, because it's easy to take certain things for granted. You know what I mean?
mhm,
When
mhm,
you just like, oh, like I'm just gonna go pursue this career that didn't
mhm,
exist 50 years ago. And that I wouldn't be
mhm.
able to do if I was born in the land of my ancestors, maybe, or who knows? You know what I mean? Like,
You,
I
you,
don't know what
you
the
may
different timelines are
probably
now.
have become an orator,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
a custodian of, how do you call it, a people's history.
yeah, yeah. Maybe a teacher. Maybe a teacher. I would have loved that. That's something I'm saving for the final days of my career. You know what I mean? Like later on in my life, I'd love to teach at some
That's
point.
that's what you think you're saving it for, but you're already doing it.
Ah, you're clever. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. In a lot of
This
ways. Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
this podcast, and every podcast you've done, when you speak in front of students in the academic settings, you are imparting knowledge based on your experiences.
Mm.
So, my dear, there's no, the future is now.
I will take it. Thank you for that word of wisdom. I will receive that one.
So, let me come back to art, identity, and global culture because you're not only stuck, quote unquote, in Canada,
True.
you,
Yeah.
at least the known world that we know within here, with the western aspect of Canada, US, and other spaces,
Yep.
and
I'll be
the
getting
Fed.
out of here. I'll be getting out of here from time to time.
Yes. So my next question to you is that how much of your own lived experiences, right, do you bring into your critiques when you are critiquing a film? How much
It's
seeps
I,
into it?
I love it because my specialty is foreign cinema. In terms of
Mm-hmm.
as a critic, is to provide intel on foreign cinema. And I'll give you an example. For example, I one of my favorite genre of films is a 1980s Hong Kong cinema. Yeah, so I'm talking about the John Wood film, anything with Chow Yun Fat, A Better Day, Better Tomorrow 1, 2, Chinese ghost stories, all these things. I love Hong Kong cinema. And Hong Kong cinema died in the 80s, actually.
Oh.
It lasted a decade and whatnot because of how no for I'm not gonna give you a whole course on Hong Kong cinema, but anyway, so when I went to Hong Kong, sometimes it's the other way around. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to go for. It's not much like how a place influenced my view of film, but how my view of film influenced
For the
my view
place.
for the place. Because when I got to Hong Kong in 2024, I had experienced a deeper level of appreciation and love and passion for and respects and reverence for the place through what I discovered in films. And films is like just art in general, such an amazing way to export culture overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I had a deeper appreciation for the day to day of the people around me that I couldn't even that whose language I didn't speak, whose food I was just about to discover, whose day to day I don't experience on my end, whose history has
Mm-hmm.
never affected mine,
Mm-hmm.
But because I studied that their films, that I studied cinema, I kind of like I had a sense of familiarity and understanding
Mm-hmm.
that developed because of it. And now when I'm back, and if I'm watching a film that has to do with Asian culture or something like that, um, it makes me very much more aware. It puts me in a deeper state of self awareness, which
Mm-hmm.
allows me to describe the meaning of films even better.
Mm-hmm.
So same with going to Bali or visiting Mexico or being in Istanbul, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
or being in Paris. I'm a fan of the French New Wave, you know what I mean, of cinema, and being able to walk in the streets where people were and understand the audacity of the Parisian people, you know what I mean, they in understanding where the audacity to create a
Mm-hmm.
form of cinema like that came from, because I was in Paris and I got to see some of like their behavior and how they
Mm-hmm.
look at things or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's the audacity, that's where that came from, you know what I mean. It makes sense that they sort of like took over this entire new genre of films for like that whole period of time.
Now, let me ask you: is there a difference between film and cinema?
No, not at all. It's the same thing. It's like saying the pictures or whatever. It depends on how much of a fancy um, film connoisseur or film snub you want to look like. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing. I feel like a film is like the product, and cinema is the art. That's usually
Mm-hmm.
how I use it. That's how most of my colleagues use it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's interchangeable.
Okay, okay. Or maybe cinema is more within the Parisian area of cinematique, and
Mm.
then we, the Anglophones, do the film. I don't. I'm trying to figure it out
Yeah.
as well. So, you think people misunderstand most
Oh,
about film critics or cultural commentators?
oh, that we hate movies. It's like I wouldn't make a living sitting myself through. It's like, oh, you guys just hate cinema or whatever. Yes, so I'm gonna put myself through hours and hours of watching things that to sit down after that, do research, put together an entire essay. And I'm gonna do that every week for the rest of my life, for the rest of my working life, and travel to these different places to tell people who are very intimidating my honest opinion about their art. I would do that out of hate. If I hated cinema, I just wouldn't watch movies. you
Well,
know,
that's why there's Rotten Tomatoes.
that's the thing. It's like if I hated cinema, I wouldn't be watching movies. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. I love movies. Thankfully, I don't get that. People don't say that about me, but they'll say
Yeah.
that about a colleague of mine. Let's say, um, in the profession because they're more critical, they're more cynical, they're more
Hmm.
experienced, they're more jaded, they're more nuanced, they're more particular, they have more of a niche for films or whatever. But it's like no, it's the love for cinema that drives
Hmm.
critic to want to make a career talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say. That's the biggest misunderstanding.
So before I let you go,
Oh, already.
I listen. There are a whole host of questions. I'm trying to be a good girl and be mindful of your time. But let's talk about Ottawa. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the Ottawa. How do we call it? Tourism.
Hmm.
Your being there and what you do and
Yeah.
what you hope to do with it.
Yeah. So I'm the travel media relations manager for Ottawa Tourism. My job is to connect with journalists from around the world, bring them back to Ottawa, and have them have experiences um, in Ottawa that they can write about in newspapers and different outlets and that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I do. In terms of what I hope that the what I try to do predominantly is to get the stories of people who come from the communities that I come from, who have the experiences that I have, and to get their contribution to Ottawa also talked about in newspapers. When I invite journalists, I want them to experience the full scope of Ottawa, not just the part that is polished and presentable to media, all that kind of stuff, but really the one that I get to live. You know what I mean? Where the places where I hang out, the clothing stores that the black communities are putting together, or all these different things. You know what I mean? Like it's making sure that every voices are represented, not just downtown Ottawa, but the people in Orleans, the people in South Keys, the people in Maryville, the people in the people on Wellington West, the people in Westboro Village. Like I'm trying to make sure that I cover every ground there is. Yeah, that's what I hope to do. I hope that when I look back at my career, on my time there, I hope I'll be able to feel like I've done the best that I could to give everybody the opportunities that comes with tourism. Because some people don't even know. So there's like
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's just building bridges between tourism and the people who make this city who actually contribute to the legacy of this city, the
Mm,
artists that people might not know about, the Manpa, restaurant that people might not know about, the Ethiopian store that people might not know about. You know what I mean? Making
mhm.
sure that they get talked about too. That's why I do what I do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What's your favorite Haitian food?
Favorite
That's
Haitian food? Uh it's so bad for you, but I love fritai.
which one
Frita,
is that?
it's a bunch of fried stuff. It's everything fried, fried plantain, fried pork,
It,
fried
the
lamb,
fried
fried.
mashed the
It's
mashed
must,
fried
yeah,
plantain with
absolutely.
a
It's a plate full of different types of fried stuff.
ah
Pate cordé, all that stuff, and then but it's just so bad for you because of the cholesterol. When you have like too much fried stuff, you know what I mean. So I'm trying to eat it as much as I can while I'm young, because later on it's one of those things that I'm aware I'm gonna have to like say no to that eventually. Yeah.
oh my goodness. I don't know whether I should put my nurse's hat on and do an education right now or just
No,
put it
it's all good.
aside.
I'm very much aware, so I don't do it all the time, But when I do it and when I crave it, I'm like, oh, I just want all the fried stuff, And I just like
Mhm.
every like couple months I go for it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Couple months, so it's not a day to day diet thing, Otherwise, I'd be like, I wouldn't be able to walk right now. My heart would just be like going up the stairs to have this talk with you would have just killed me. So I just don't do that.
Thank you.
I'm a typical matcha drinker, like I go to the gym, you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. I try to stay
Okay.
healthy.
Cool, 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 cool. My last question, for emerging writers or critics,
Yes.
right? Especially those who are navigating identity and representation, what advice do you wish? What advice do you wish someone had given you earlier?
You don't have to be right, you just have to be honest.
Mm. Guys, I ain't asking no more questions. That's it.
Now honestly, I think that's the thing I wish I had known that earlier because
Mhm.
we live in a very polarized society now, more than ever
Yeah.
before.
Hmm.
On both sides of the human, political, and emotional spectrum, um, gender spectrum, religious spectrum, people are adopting extreme views. And it's normal as human beings to want to fit in somewhere, to be like, let me pretend or let me adapt the view of other people or whatever so that I can fit into a group. But like
Hmm.
my good friend Ian Martel said, in order to write accurately about the world or about anything, you need to have the courage to turn your back on it. It's not a matter of being right, it's a matter of being honest. That's how you start conversation. Our jobs as writers, critics, and cultural commentators is to spark conversations. You can't spark a conversation by being by being an echo chamber creator. You know what I mean? You have to be
Hmm.
honest, and it's a hard job to do because especially because of the day and age that we live in. So tell the truth and then turn off your phone and hang out in the real world with family. That part is no, but that part honestly, like, though the previous thing I said was the answer to your question, but if I can say one more thing about that, is that anyone who's also making a career out of putting their real personality online,
Hmm.
is to, back then when we had MSN, this MSN Messenger. I don't know if y'all
Yes.
remember MSN Messenger. This thing we used to do, which means that we used to sign out and then go out in the real world. We don't sign out of social media anymore. We don't sign out of YouTube. We don't sign out of Instagram. We don't
We
sign out of
plugged in
TikTok.
all the
We're
time.
plugged in all the time, you know. And they want that. The people, if you study media, I've studied media. It's designed to keep
Hmm.
you hooked, and it's designed in a specific way to release endorphin in your brain
Hmm.
whenever you're looking at it. Anyway, now it's common knowledge. Most people know that. Um, but remember that social media is not a real place. The internet is not a real place. What really matters is what you're out here doing in the real world.
Hmm.
That is where your bread and butter comes from. In order for me to come on here and have an authentic conversation with
Mm-hmm.
you, I need to actually, once this conversation turns off, once we turn off our phones, and once I go downstairs, once I hang out with my brother, once I go see
Mm-hmm.
my friends or my sister, whatever, I need to go there, be present, and live a real life that contributes to me being a real person when I talk online.
Mm-hmm.
Please, it's very important that you create healthy boundaries within yourself, because if you are one of those people who live for the internet, who get validation from the internet, you already lost the game. You're going to hit a plateau and you're going to be stuck there. It might work out for you till 5,000 followers, maybe 10,000. Maybe you're lucky, you get 100,000. But there's going to be a moment where you're going to realize that opportunity stop, because in order for opportunities to keep growing in this evolving, it's ever evolving world, especially with
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence and all that kind of stuff, in order for that to happen, you need to be constantly evolving. And you can't do that when you're too busy creating a fake image on the internet for people to like you. That doesn't get you as far as you think it does. And most of the people who do that, I've met some of them in real life, and let me tell you, they're not happy. On that note,
On that note, the way to stay happy is to unplug,
yeah, and plug in real life.
plug into real life, connect with friends, connect with family, pick up the phone, call somebody you haven't called in a long time, listen to the stories, the narratives that makes us tick, that makes us become. And you know what? Keep sharing your stories. Vladimir, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I had to be a good girl because I know this conversation has a habit of going off tangent and going deeper and deeper, like I'm, a rabbit
So I
hole.
like.
I can get myself into a rabbit hole very quickly. Don't let this fool you. So thank you, and for everybody that is listening, thank you for tuning in into the Nana Yaa Yeboaa podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please do share. And where can we find Vladimir Jean?
You can find me on Instagram at just as Vlad. You can find me on IMDb at Vladimir Jean-Gilles. Honestly, and you can get a hold of me at Ottawa Tourism as well. Every Thursdays at
Yes.
5:45 on 91.5 FM. If you're in the Ottawa Kingston region, I'm
Mhm.
on the CBC radio. Talking about movies and stuff like that, and for the rest, I mean, if you Google my name, you're gonna be able to find out to see to see what I'm up to.
I'll just Google him up and you'll find him, and he's there. Until next time, folks, have a beautiful day and thank you for your love, your attention, and your support.
Ciao.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.